You're listening to the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast with Mark Allred, Court Lalonde, and Rob Tomlin. You can subscribe and rate our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Player.fm, SoundCloud.com, and Stitcher Radio. You can support the show financially by going to blackandgoldhockey.com and clicking on the fanatics.com banner before shopping online. You can also purchase exclusive Black and Gold Hockey Podcast merchandise in the official B&G shop. And now, time to start the Bruins hockey talk from 3 different countries. Enjoy the show.
Hey, Bruins fans, welcome back for episode 90 of the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast. We are back together. The world traveler, Rob Tomlin, has graced us with his presence. Rob, welcome back.
Thank you.
How was Poland again for like the 12th time this year?
Well, I didn't go on holiday for 26 years, so I'm making the most of it now. So, yeah, it was really good. Nice, relaxing family time. Just what I needed.
Awesome.
And now time for busy time at work, so yeah.
Good, we're glad to have you back, man.
Oh, glad to be back. Don't worry about that.
Court, how we doing, my friend?
We're good.
Good.
A little tired. Daughter is keeping us awake lately, but, that's life.
Yeah, sorry to hear that, my friend.
Yeah, it is what it is.
We do have a jam-packed show for you this afternoon, and we have some very special sponsorship information that we got to talk about, but that would be a little further in the show. As Thomas Nystrom joined me a little earlier to let us know what's going on with a new show sponsorship. So we're excited to have him on and to talk about that. So why don't we just take care of that now? We'll just take a quick break, and then we'll be right back, and we'll talk some hockey. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Sorry, guys.
Whoa.
Dollar in the jar.
Yeah, we'll be right back.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Nick Bukestad.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
David Backus. And Zach Parisi were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world!
Hey, Bruins fans, as mentioned on the Black and Gold Hockey Podcast, we have some very exciting news, and to tell us about this news, I wanted to bring in a very special teammate to the Black and Gold Hockey Productions crew. His name's Thomas Nystrom, and he's the one that does all our website upgrades and makes everything really work to a T. So, Thomas, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So we've been talking for the past 2 weeks about a show sponsorship, and I think it's the appropriate time to bring you on and talk about the exciting news that you have to offer.
Absolutely. Yeah, as you know, I've been working at trying to get us some sponsorships on a pretty regular basis lately. And one I kind of came across just for my own reasons. We were talking briefly about the idea of hockey camps and whatnot. And I came across one that does it all over the country. It's called Weekend Warriors. They're actually based out of Utah, run by a really nice guy named Rick Parisi. And noticed that they were coming to Shelton, which is in Connecticut, kind of my home rink. And also they were coming to Boston, Buffalo, New Jersey. They're coming around all over the place, pretty much all spring into the summer. So I started talking to him and kind of figured out that the markets that we cover mostly in terms of where most of our listeners are coming from up in New England, that's where they're coming in just a few weeks. So it just seemed like a natural fit. It's a really cool organization. Rick himself actually didn't get into playing adult hockey until about 30 years old, he said. And he's brought on a number of really good coaches. They literally just travel the country throwing adult camps together at local rinks. And it's like 12 hours of ice time in 3 days. So it's totally a crash course. If somebody out there listening right now wants to get on the ice, wants to learn how to play the sport of hockey, and learn the right things right off the bat, give you some good structure as you're trying to get in there if you want to join a men's league down the road. This is a great opportunity to do it. And I myself am actually going to participate in the Boston one, which I'm very excited about.
Oh, that's awesome. And after looking at the website, after we got done talking, they seem like they do a very, very well training program. And it's not only for people that want to learn about the game, it's also for adults that want to learn more as in skill levels. So it's pretty much basically for all kinds of levels, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. When I spoke to Rick just last week, he told me that he's got guys in there who used to play hockey growing up and just kind of lost it and stopped playing for a while. Life happens, gets in the way. And they may have kids now who are starting to play junior hockey or pee-wees, bantams, whatever. And they want to get back out on the ice and sharpen up their skills so they can be coaches or whatever the skill level may be. He actually told me there's a guy who goes one of the camps, I want to say 2-3 years in a row, 75 years old.
Oh, my God, really?
75 years old and wants to get out there and play with the boys. And, like, you have to admire that. Like, the thing about this sport, in any sport for the most part, but I feel like especially with hockey itself, is you never lose that passion. And the great thing about hockey is you don't really have to be moving that much to be moving. Like, you get a little bit of momentum and you can glide around the ice. And why not do it with a stick and a puck in hand? And the camaraderie that you get in that locker room, I don't know if you can beat it. So it just sounds like a really great opportunity for anybody. Like, whether you've been playing a couple years and you just want to sharpen up some skills, you've been off the ice, or you just started skating 5 months ago and you're like, you know what, I want to give hockey a try.
That is awesome news. Can you tell us where to find them on social media?
Yeah, they're all over the place. They're on Twitter. They're on Facebook. Just search Weekend Warriors Hockey. It's Weekend Warriors Hockey Academy, whichever you want to type in. You're going to find it pretty easily. And then Weekend Warriors have a website as well with all the information. And it gives you testimonials, like people who have been doing the program for a year or just gave it a shot and what they took out of it. So they're all over the place. And obviously you can go to our website right on the right side. There's a banner up that actually flips through all the cities that they're coming to.
Yeah, and that's at blackandgoldhockey.com. Check it out. And like Thomas has been saying, if you're interested in learning more or getting back on the ice, give them a shout. They travel around the United States, and they do some fantastic programs. Thomas, thank you very much for updating us. This is fantastic news for both organizations, as ourselves and the Weekend Warriors guys that are doing all this training.
Absolutely. And there'll be some more material going up on the website. I myself am actually going to do some videos for them, just kind of break down preparing for camp and everything. But honestly, if there's anybody out there listening who's want to jump on the ice, this is honestly one of the best ideas that I've come across. And me personally, I'm very excited and obviously grateful for the partnership with Black and Gold and Weekend Warriors putting together a little program here. So very excited. Couple of weeks coming up. Shelton's coming up in a couple of weeks if you're in Connecticut, or that's the closest one. Boston's coming up, Buffalo. I know we have listeners all over the world. I've been sending out T-shirt orders for the last couple months all over the place. It's insane the reach that this program has had. So very excited to see who turns out.
Yeah, and thank you for everybody that's been buying T-shirts. It's such a it's a great thing that people love the show and they love our merchandise. So keep it coming.
Yeah, it's been an honor to pack all those T-shirts and get them out there.
Awesome, Thomas. Thank you very much. You've been a solid addition to our team, and keep up the amazing work, my friend.
I appreciate it. Have a good one, Mark.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Jonathan Taves.
Backhand scores! Wow, what a goal!
Joe Pavelski. And Johnny Gaudreau were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world!
All right, so that is a great news for all of us here at the Black and Gold Productions team. Weekend Warriors Adult Hockey Academy is a fantastic program, and we welcome them, and we're looking forward to a short relationship with them now, and hopefully a longer relationship later on if it all works out. But if at any level that you play, any type of hockey, if you need any more skills or training or anything like that, these guys are fantastic. They're based out of Utah, as Thomas said a little while ago, and they're 6 or 7 great coaches that go all around the country and do these camps, and it's great, and it's a good price, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely check out the website at weekendwarriorshockey.com. You can follow them on Twitter at WW Adult Hockey, and Facebook. Just do a search, Weekend Warriors Adult Hockey Academy. So let's get right into it, boys. Last week's game started off with Sunday, April Fool's Day, and it was a pretty foolish game, in my opinion, against the Philadelphia Flyers, which they lost in overtime 4-3. Not the greatest game for Anton Hudobin, who is slowly sliding off my my welcome back next year list. Sorry to say, but I understand that he's done very well this season, and he's really seemed to amp up Tuukka Rask's play, but I don't know what his problem is.
He's nervous. Playoffs are coming.
He's nervous to ride the bench.
Well, yeah, but does he really ride the bench? I'm not sure.
In the playoffs?
Yeah,
he doesn't see the ice.
I don't see him
unless Tuukka Rask gets blown out. He does not see the ice. Cassidy's kind of made that clear. Tuukka's his guy.
Yeah, if they're like 2 games up, 3 games up, do you rest Tuukka for a game?
No, not in the playoffs.
Okay.
I just from I don't know. I've never seen it happen.
Yeah,
it could. You never know. But Dobie played well last game, but as Mark was alluding to, before last game, he hadn't won a game in 5 games.
Yeah,
true.
Like he got the season back for them 100%. Played fantastic at the beginning of the year when Tuukka, sucked. There's no other way around it. But he's been he makes these saves sometimes. Everybody's like, "Oh, it's a fantastic save," and I just look, well, he was out of position and he had to get back.
Yeah, I don't like. That was the whole Malcolm Subban thing for me. Everyone said he's a really good athletic goaltender. Athletic goaltender means you're out of position a lot. That's what that means, because you have to slide around to make your little flashy save. I'd rather see a guy like Tuukka who can cut down the angles very well. I mean, he makes the fancy save when he has to, but he doesn't do it often.
And as you said last week, Mark, when you were talking about Tuukka, the thing about Tuukka is, and Rhonda was saying it too, how he plays his position so well that it looks like he's not putting effort in. It's just because that's the type of goaltender he is. He's all about angles. That's how he plays the game.
Right. Yeah. As a big body goaltender, that's what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. He's not going to be making those diving saves.
No, it's all more positional and squaring himself to the puck at all times. So, but and on Tuesday's game against the Tampa Bay Lightning, I can't blame this whole loss on him at all. I think the team was just really, really down, getting blown out 4-0, shut out for I believe the 3rd time this season. Just not a very good game, and one that I thought was important in the standings. I mean, if everybody's all up for that first place and Eastern Conference title, that's all well and good. But I mean, I'm more or less the guy that's like, hey, we clinched a playoff spot, so let's go from here. But this is a game that I thought they could have needed, but I thought they could be playing a little better, but.
Yeah, and Tuukka did let in two
exactly.
questionables, but the team didn't score. So regardless whether if he lets in two bad ones, if the team doesn't score a goal, it's the team, as Mark said. Yeah. It's the team that loses the game.
And Thursday, they played the Florida Panthers, who they're going to match up again today. They lost 3-2 in regulation. Another one that's a definite one that we should have had, and that's 3 games in a row now that the Bruins have not. They've earned points in one game. That was the Philly overtime game, and the next 2 they have not. So, but on Saturday night they beat the Ottawa Senators 5-2, and so. Which lines up for today's game and the last one of the season. And this is the makeup game for, I believe, does anybody remember when the storm was? Was it February?
January, wasn't it?
Is it January? Okay.
I live in Toronto, so.
Yeah, and I'm the one in Boston, and I totally forgot about it.
Yeah, like you guys lost power. Like, I would think, everybody would remember it.
Hey, I didn't lose any power. But anyway.
No, you didn't.
It's just a makeup game. Unfortunate, it's on a back-to-back, but it's at 7:30 tonight against the Florida Panthers, and we're gonna see. It pretty much gonna be the same lineup as last night. Maybe a couple adjustments.
Grizz comes in.
Yeah. So we'll definitely talk about that later on.
And there's this pairing that we should talk about that it looks like it might be alluding to what they want to do, but Krug is going to be playing with Kevin Miller.
Thank God.
Grizz, yeah, exactly, 100% agreement. Like, thank God.
Did that play by Kevin Miller, like last night, where he just walked up the side wall, played it across? Oh no, it was McAvoy, wasn't it? But it was a mirror image of what Kevin Miller did the other night. He's so good when he gets that little bit of confidence. Just like skate up the wall and make things happen. And I love the fact that he'll skate up the wall, get to the goal line, and just throw the puck in front. Because there's so many guys like David Backes that are deadly around that area. I love Kevin Miller at the moment. I think he's one of the best defensemen we've got.
And yeah, I'm real impressed. I have not been the biggest fan, wasn't the biggest fan when he's signed his extension, but I'm slowly buying into what he's done in his contributions to this team moving forward. And right now, I mean, if you're thinking about expansion for Seattle, I mean, he's the guy that stays for me. And I would think that this would be probably...
I'm clapping.
Adam McQuaid's last hurrah with this team.
Or Backes.
Why? What's the matter with Backes?
Just contract. Seattle. I just look at Seattle, and it could be... I'm agreeing with you.
Okay.
You got McQuaid, you got David Krejci, and you got Backes. Who could be the odd men out.
Right.
Yeah.
The playoff schedule has been somewhat released, and it's all going to depend on what happens today against Florida. And
the first 2 games are a lock, though.
Yeah.
Regardless who they play.
If the Bruins win today's game, they play the New Jersey Devils. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that game is on Thursday, April 12th at 7 p.m. at TD Garden.
Correct.
If they lose today against Florida, they play Toronto.
Thursday
at the same time, and at TD. So regardless, it looks like the Bruins will have home ice advantage for the first round. The only difference I see in the schedule is when you go down to Game 4. The Toronto game, if they play it Thursday, it would be the 19th and not the 12th. as it is the 18th if they play New Jersey.
Yeah, the Jersey would be a Wednesday. I saw the same thing.
I'm guessing that's got something to do with the Celtics being in the playoffs as well. Not a basketball fan, not going to get into it, but that's
there's concerts.
Other stuff going on. So, I know it's been going all over Twitter today and in the past couple of days, but is there any matchup that anybody particularly wants, or just let's get in the playoffs and do it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's my mentality. I don't care who's in front of us. I just want to go. I'm not. My expectations of this team is I just want to see them get past the first round. I mean, I'm one of those guys that saw the first round series last year, and it was it was very bad for me because I thought this team would be a little better, but they were seriously outplayed by a obviously more skilled and outskated this Bruins team, the Ottawa Senators. So my thing is make the second round, and then I'll evaluate from there. But
they had no D last year. I'm sorry, I got to step that in. Come on,
oh yeah, absolutely.
We lost our defense. We would have beat.
Right, but those are the times when players need to step up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, you gotta. I love you, Mark. It's just the stepping up thing. And sometimes when you lose those guys on defense, there's no more stepping up.
What?
There's just who else is going to step in? They had nobody. They played Tommy Cross.
Yeah, I know, but the mentality all this season was one guy out, one guy in.
At the beginning of the year, it wasn't.
Yeah, I know, but for a majority of the season, it's been like that. So
I still get a little laugh when New York Rangers fans talk about the upside of Rob O'Gara. It was Tommy Cross that got called up last year.
Exactly.
That. Like, I just don't see it. But like you were saying, like it does need to be one man down, one man up. But at the same time, I think the coach has to learn from the mistakes of last year.
Yeah,
and so does the general manager. And they need to realise who in Providence steps up. But the thing is, this year, you've got guys playing out of their mind in Providence. Austin Zarnik. You've got half of the roster of younger kids, and you've got all the guys that are filling in on amateur tryouts. So you can pluck guys from down there and play them up in the main roster. The main thing is this playoff is if someone gets roughed up, they've got to answer for it. And they've got to play a physical game because they didn't do that last year when guys got hurt. They need to go out there and make sure that that player knows that if he hurts one of our players, that's it for him.
Yeah, so, and as someone who lives in Toronto, the last thing I want to do is face the Leafs in the first round, but I want to heed the warning. Be careful what everybody wishes for. Everybody's losing their mind saying we need Toronto. Like so many people are already saying that we would lose to Toronto right away, which I don't care what happened in the regular season. But it would be nice for Tampa and Toronto because you're going to have to play one of them anyways. Be nice for them to play each other. And, hopefully we can take down New Jersey. But New Jersey's not a bad hockey club. Like, they made some great additions at the trade deadline. And Taylor Hall has been playing. He's going to win the Hart Trophy.
Yeah, so, he's heavily favored for that.
Keith Kincaid, Rob and I talked about him last year, how we wanted the Bruins to pick him up. And now Corey Schneider is their backup goalie. So
what a turn of events.
The Devils are playing they picked up Vatanen, they picked up Maroon, they've been playing very good. So regardless who the Bruins play out of the Leafs or the Devils, they're both going to be a tough matchup. Do the Leafs outskate the Bruins? Not this year, I don't think they will. And I think the playoffs are a different animal. It's a totally different season. Right. Someone put on on Twitter a couple of nights ago, put up the stat that the Blackhawks in 2013 lost their last 4 games of the year. Like, it doesn't matter, people. Let's get into the playoffs, whole new season.
Yep, exactly.
Don't want to play the Leafs, though. It's a true story. Still want
I'd rather play Tampa than all them teams.
Yeah, seriously.
Like, I think that would be the probably better matchup for the first round. Because the way I see it, both New Jersey and Toronto are fast, young, and dangerous. Whereas Tampa, you know what to expect from them. I don't think you know what to expect from two teams that haven't quite made it to the playoff picture recently and are scary good. Because Toronto can just turn it on, and the same with New Jersey.
Yeah. And New Jersey, we have the whole history of the Brad Marchand incident this year, and didn't they pick up Grabner too, who's like a Bruin killer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Like New Jersey's not this walkover hockey club. People are like talking on the social media and on all over the place, like we're going to destroy these guys 4 games straight.
No,
that
I
remains.
Just don't see it.
That all remains to be seen.
The only difference between those two teams and Tampa is the defense and the depth on D.
Mm-hmm. Because Toronto's got terrible defense.
Yeah, but they're in the same boat as us. If someone goes down, who do you actually bring up? Because for the Bruins right now, if one D-man goes down, it's probably Zaboral that's coming up.
Right.
And then, where do you go from there? If another guy goes down, Jeremy Lowe's on. Both guys not played NHL hockey at all. I just, they're in the same boat as us. So I think that makes them just as dangerous as the Bruins are right now.
Yeah, regardless, I think we're going to get past the first round, regardless who we play.
Yeah.
It's just someone's, I think it was Elliot Freeman. You got to beat the teams anyways to get there. You got to win 16 games.
Yeah.
What does it matter?
Yep. And we talked about the guys down in Providence with Josh B today, and that's in the second hour of the show. So he's the writer from shippingupthecauseway.com, and we had a good discussion about all the prospects. So we'll talk about that later on. So stay tuned for that. This week came out that Rick Nash, and I kind of alluded to it when we had on Matt Kalman that. He's got a concussion, and he's recovering from it, and he's just been on the ice for the past couple days.
Today, too.
Yeah. So when he comes back healthy, and obviously it's ruled out that him and Corrali are not going to be in today's lineup. So as the the first round of the playoffs sets to begin, who takes his spot, and where's he going to go? So, as of
Court can go. I think he's
no, go. No, that's what I said. Your name.
If Nash comes back, he's got to be third or fourth line. He doesn't fit in the top two lines. No chance. You don't take Donato and DeBrusque away from Krejci when they're playing so well. You don't break up that first line because it's been one of the best first lines in the NHL all season long. To be honest, probably play with Backes on the third line. Maybe him, Backes, and Riley Nash as the third line.
Yeah, depending on what happens when he comes back too.
Yeah, and then you put a guy like Heinen maybe on the fourth line with Wingles and. It's hard to tell. Other than him and Wingles, you got interchangeable pieces there. So, but the thing is, when they all come back, doesn't someone have to be sent down to Providence as well? Are we not over the roster?
I believe you can have a bigger roster for the playoffs.
Yeah, Black Aces.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it matters, does it? I think how many people are you allowed to have?
I'm not sure if there's an actual number. There might be. But I know that they could bring up a lot of guys that, if Providence wasn't involved in the Calder Cup playoffs, then
Zarnik would be on the roster.
Right.
Yeah, just to have, right?
Yeah.
I honestly think that it's going to be Donato as your third line center, and Nash gets Riley Nash will be your fourth line center, and Corrali is the one that sits, and that Rick Nash goes back to that second line. I think DeBrusque is the one that sewed himself. And the hint of Donato being that third-line center is he played center last game and played it effectively well. Yep. It still allows you to use him on the first power play or the second power play. But I will say this, just like Tyler Seguin in his first playoffs, there's going to be extremely short leash on Donato. He screws up. He's going to sit, and he might not get back in the lineup. But play a team like Toronto, you want Donato playing.
Yeah,
You play like New Jersey, you might play Corrali in different situations depending on if you're at home or not, just based on the matchups. But if you're playing Toronto, I can't see how Donato doesn't play. It's not like they're a big team. It's not like they do a lot of hitting, except Kadri. But Kadri's going to be going against Bergeron.
Yeah. I'm looking at the lineup that Jack Edwards put out before last night's game. And you don't, in my opinion, you don't mess around with the chemistry that the top six have right now. But on the third line of Heinen, Backes, and Achari will. I think Achari and Schaller. Colby Cave's gone. Brian Gianta's probably not going to play. Mm-hmm. I think Achari and Schaller are going to be in and out of the lineup, possibly in the playoffs. And that Achari spot on the third line could be easily taken by Rick Nash, because Rick Nash is one of those versatile players that could play on the left side and the right side, preferably on the right because of his shooting. But I don't know. I mean, I like the things that I see. I like the depth of the team, regardless of who's playing. But when you're going into the postseason, you definitely want guys that have been together for a while, and I wouldn't want to shuffle lines around too much. But, and then they go into, Corrali. Corrali's returning soon. He's been skating, so, I mean, it's a tough one. I mean, this is a good problem to have, even though that I can't figure out what the best lineup's going to be,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's a lot like the situation last year when, McAvoy was signed. We're like, well, we don't. Everybody, some of us saying he should be in the lineup right away. Some people were saying he's not, injury. But Donato has now already done what McAvoy did and come into the lineup.
Yep.
And I just see it. I see the leash being very small. Like I said about the second, but I just see it so hard to take him out of that lineup. Like, it's just Donato. He's just that good.
Yeah. He plays a heavy game.
I don't know.
And he's played in the Olympics. And that's huge.
I don't know if he plays third line center. Maybe they just unleash him and say, "Look, play hockey." Like,
it's the playoffs. Yeah.
Yeah. Don't think about it too much. Just go out there and do what we know you can do. But if that guy, when he's let loose, is deadly.
Like, think about that third line of Heinen, him, and Backes in the playoffs. It's disgusting. Yeah. You'd have him and Heinen playing with the puck. You'd have Backes digging out all the corners. It's just like when we had
Heinen's shot recently has been ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Snipes.
Yep. And he loves that blocker side high. Like, he loves coming in off the right wing.
And then you'd have Nash with DeBrusk. Because I know we're talking about chemistry, but when Nash was on that line, he played extremely well with them.
He did.
Yeah.
Remember we were at the game, Mark, and we were up in the box, and I was like, Nash is going to paw one. Boom.
Yep.
Like, that line played very well together. And then that would give us disgusting three lines. Like, disgusting.
It still pisses me off that DeBrusk did not win the 7th player award.
Oh
yeah, you haven't been here
he's like the Bergeron of the offensive zone. How many takeaways does he have on the night?
Or Riley Nash, just not McAvoy.
Yeah. Just digging in the corners. Like, that guy is relentless. It's like he's constantly playing for a place in the lineup, even though he's guaranteed time. I just think he's, for what he is, for the first-year guy in the NHL, played amazing. Can't wait to see him in the playoffs.
One thing that I've really noticed about this Bruins team on the defense, especially, and I'm not overly sure if this is because of their 3-game losing streak last week, but Brandon Carlo was injured on the last day of the month of March with a pretty gruesome injury and kind of fell apart kind of a little bit. But is it now showing the importance of Brandon Carlo and how bad people really crapped on him or continue to? And for the record, people that are applauding an injury like this to get him out of the lineup you're just a jerk. You're a moron. I've gotten tweets saying that, it's about time he got out of the lineup and it took an injury. That's just not right, man. I mean, this guy's a human being and he plays a role on this team regardless if people like him or not. And I just think it's really asinine that somebody would go out of their way to say something like that.
It's a bit of a mix of the Bruins definitely missing Brandon Carlo, and the fact that he played that like pivotal role. And I think like your middle pairing right side has always been a guy who's played the penalty kill and played a lot of 5-on-5 minutes. And it's hard to like switch those guys up. I mean, you see it when like a guy like Adam McQuaid goes out of the lineups, like the shot blocks per game went down tremendously.
Yep.
And I just think it's the same with him. He puts his body in the way all the time. He's great on the penalty kill, especially the second part of the season, that second half. I think he's the most unlucky guy ever for it to happen to him 2 years in a row at the same point.
Same corner.
Yeah,
same
exactly.
place on the ice.
Yeah, that was weird.
While it was happening, they were digging the puck out the corner, and as he twisted, Jack Edwards was just saying, like, oh, that's the same place that he injured himself last year, as he was going down. And I was like, oh my god, jinxed him. It's not good. But he's going to miss the whole playoffs. All playoffs. That's bad.
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for the guy because he's worked his ass off the last month. So.
Yeah,
and he's key for the penalty kill. Like key.
Oh, yeah. Especially if Chara takes a penalty.
And he can play minutes, right? Like the playoffs are all about minute crunching, and Carlo is a guy that can play a ton of minutes. And I was talking with someone on Twitter today, and they brought up the point that about how, it's people dump on him because he's not that flashy guy offensively. So they notice his mistakes. It's just like I notice Grizzlick's mistakes a lot, and people forgive him for his mistakes for his offensive ability, but they don't do that for Carlo ever. It's just unfortunately now you're noticing how much we're missing him. But I know we're gonna. I think Kevin Miller could be that role in the playoffs, especially if we look at last year. Miller had a fantastic playoff. McQuaid actually had a fantastic playoff till he got hurt. So if McQuaid can slot into that Miller spot, and then you have Krug play with Miller, and it looks like Cassie's going to try it out tonight anyways. He's going to have Krug play with Miller.
And I think you tell Miller as well, no fighting. Like, let guys like Adam McQuaid deal with that. Like, I want to see him kept healthy and kind of babied a bit. Because if you lose Kevin Miller, who plays your top four, Holden on the offside, like I wouldn't like to see a guy play the offside during the playoffs. Because we've seen quite a few mess ups on the D-to-D passes. So it's just like everyone's worrying now. Like everyone's picking apart every little thing that could happen to the Bruins. And maybe they do sail through the first round, but if injuries start to happen, then panic in the teams are going to set in because they'll think back to last year and what happened. So, and that's never good.
Yeah, you know what's funny about when people evaluate or fans evaluate is they give crap to a person like Brandon Carlo, and then they still go after a player like Torrey Krug who's having an absolute career year. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people out there that I mean, hockey personalities that have mentioned to Torrey himself that there's some Norris considerations there. Yeah. It might be a little out of the realm. He might be way lower ranked, but he's being spoken about it, and that is just that's good things to hear from a defenseman that of his offensive ability and the way he transitions the puck out of the defensive zone. I mean, he's not a bad player as everybody seems to think he is, or most seem to think he is. I just like the way that this Bruce Cassidy system allows the defense to handle that puck instead of a Julian system where it was like, oh, let's skate a little bit, but let's look back and see if we can pass it back and not get in that neutral zone just yet. These guys want to take the puck and move it out and create something offensive.
Yeah, and I think Krug's quarterback the power play better than most defensemen in the league.
Yeah.
You see that with McAvoy playing the second power play unit most nights. McAvoy's a very gifted offensive weapon, especially on the power play, but Torrey Krug's by far better this season. I think he's one of the most undervalued defensemen in the league when you look at him, and especially as an undrafted player that we paid nothing for.
Yeah.
And his cap's not too bad either. And his term's not too bad. I mean, I just think if you didn't have him right now and you've only got one more year of Chara left, that left side would look really, really bad. So I think during the playoffs as well, it'll play a big role because that power play needs to keep putting pucks in the back of the net on a nightly basis.
Yeah, and look at the difference between 2011 and this year for this upcoming playoff run. They scored one power play goal in the whole playoffs in 2011, right? Yeah. And look at the power play now. And then you think about the offensive, not the special teams. Get away from that for a second, but look at how many 30-goal scorers were on the 2011 team. Do you guys know how many?
2.
1. Milan Lucic.
Ooh.
And look how many we have this year, and then you look a little deeper and look how many 20-goal scorers we have. I mean, if you look at it...
Look how bad that guy is this year.
Yeah, right? He basically wants out of Edmonton, practically begging to get out. You're talking about Milan, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He's dog shit this year.
That contract was awful.
Oh, yeah. But that's also on him. Like, he accepted that.
Yeah, and Chiarelli gave it.
Yeah, well, I guaranteed that he was going to Edmonton when that happened, because I was like, Chiarelli's just going to pay him so much money and so much term, and he's not the player that everyone thinks he is.
Right.
I remember, just tweeting Edmonton fans that were trying to justify it, just going, I'm a Bruins fan, don't even try. No. He's starting to goon it up as well again.
Yeah.
Well, trying to.
But the problem is the NHL isn't so many people are. The playoffs are a little bit different. There's going to be more hitting, but so many people are like, "Oh, when McQuaid's out of the lineup during the season this year, they're like, we need the toughness." What do you need the toughness for?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
It's speed and skill now. That's the thing.
And especially if we play Toronto in the first line. Sheesh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you had slow but tough guys, you'd be dead in the water in the first round. Really bad. But, other guys have stepped up with the toughness, I think, this year. You do get it from all up and down the line. Look at that fourth line. How many hits have they got this season? And you need more toughness because Adam McQuaid's out of the lineup? No. No way.
You got players like David Pastrnak throwing down a fight a couple games ago.
Oh, yeah. And then, that was against, Girardi, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And Kucherov wouldn't go with anyone. Oh, I can't wait till we see the Lightning in the playoffs. Oh, Kucherov is going to get just drilled by someone. And I don't mean that in a way that I want him to get injured. I just want to see him get pushed about because he's a little POS. So, yeah.
Speaking of end of the year events, the NHL named a new award that's going to be presented at the award ceremony in Las Vegas this year in honor of Willie O'Ree. And
I'm sorry we didn't put you in the Hall of Fame award.
No, it's the Willie O'Ree Community Hero Award.
I'm well aware.
I know. It's for players in the league that go above and beyond outside the rink in their community. So huge congrats to him. Well deserved, and hopefully, like Court alluded to, it's a step to him to get into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Hey everybody, I'm sorry to say that we had to end the show on this note, but we had technical difficulties, and I'm actually finishing this segment up on my phone because my internet is gone. So I really wanted to get together with the guys and talk about something that happened on Friday night in Saskatchewan, and it really touched home for us, even though that the recording studio is in Boston. And Court is in Toronto, and Rob is in the UK. But it hit the hockey community kind of hard, and that's the tragic events that happened to the Humboldt Broncos team on Friday night when their bus was involved in a head-on collision with a tractor-trailer truck. So we are very sad at this moment. We really feel for the families. As a hockey community, we try to get together as much as we can, and that's very apparent on the GoFundMe page that was created to help these families in the grieving process, and the Black and Gold Hockey Productions team, whether it be the podcast or the website content writers, and they're fantastic. We've all pitched in and donated to that fund, and when I made the donation in honor of them from us, it was at a little over $100,000, and right now I believe it's approaching almost $4 million, maybe even close to $5 million. But kudos to everybody that has donated, and I just, like I said, I really feel bad for those families, and we do come back together as a hockey community, and it's a hockey family. So again, apologize for the way the show ended, but please stay tuned for my interview with Josh, the writer from shippinguptoboston.com, and he does a fantastic job, and he's been joining us every week. So we'll be right back after this short break.
Passion, talent, development. NCAA hockey offers all that, and its players graduate at a 90% rate. Johnny Gaudreau.
Backhand score! Wow, what a goal!
Joe Pavelski. And Shane Gostisbehere were stars on campus before the NHL stage. Whether you are a fan or a player, nothing compares to college hockey. Visit collegehockeyinc.com and follow @collegehockey.
Champions of the college hockey world! Puck gets under the skate of Nicky Petty, and Jack Studnicka, shorthanded breakaway, scores! Tucks it in underneath Cole Ceci, and it's a 1-0 Oshawa lead. Now McLeod mishandles, and Donato tries to make a pay. Here's Donato. In deep, Ryan Donato curls and scores! A highlight reel goal for Ryan Donato. To make something happen. Goes to his left, in front, and that's Trent Frederick on the one-time redirect. Frederick with his fourth, and Team USA now up 8-2.
Hey Bruins fans, as mentioned earlier in the episode, we have Josh back after a week off, celebrating the Easter holiday. You can find him at 2Causeway on Twitter, and please follow his blog. He does a great job on Providence Bruins updates on a weekend basis. shippingtocauseway.com is where you can find Josh's work. Josh, thank you very much for joining me today.
Mark, I'm so glad to be back. It's nice to finally do this again. I felt a little weird last week not getting our prospect talk in, so glad to be back. We've got a lot to talk about this week.
Man, you're going to be suffering over the off season, man.
Oh, I know. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to do, but I mean, fortunately, in July we got a dev camp coming up, so even if we don't manage to get creds to that, still plenty to talk about. It'll be a nice overview of all the prospects in one spot.
Oh, definitely, and we'll be sure to, because we're prospect guys, we'll be sure to dive into the draft, development camp.
Oh yeah, exactly. The draft.
There's a couple of things for the off season to touch on, but more or less, it's going to be a nice break for us before we get into the 2018-19 season. So a lot of good things happening, especially down in Providence, where we're going to start our conversation today. On April 3rd, a morning game at the Webster Bank Arena with the Providence Bruins played the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. Bridgeport walks away with a 3-2 victory, starting off in the first period with no scoring. Second period, Providence gets on the board from Adam Parrell's 8th goal from Colton Hargrove at 9:57. Jump into the third period, Providence Colton Hargrove scores his 15th from Trent Frederick at 6:12. And that was it for the Bruins scoring as they take the 3-2 loss. Providence shots on goal, 34-25. I'm sorry, 20. Providence had 25 shots and Bridgeport had 34. Power play opportunities were 0 for 1 for the Bees. And Vladar gets the loss. He is 2-2-0 this season, stopping 31 of 34 shots. And there were 7,451 screaming kids at the arena that day. Did you watch the game?
I did. I did not like what I saw from the team that day. It was it seemed like they did not come out with any urgency or any. It seems like they were still in bed, basically. They did not seem like they were prepared for that game.
Yeah, I did not watch the game because I had to do my regular 40-hour job, but I did listen to it, and even though we got the Bridgeport Sound Tigers feed because the Providence Bruins don't have a radio program anymore, it just seemed like the Bees weren't all there like you mentioned, and even though it came from like that Sound Tigers feed, and they weren't overly biased, they weren't saying very good things about the way that the Baby Bees played, nor the way that the Sound Tigers played, because I thought that they played a little sluggish themselves. Very untoned game, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely. I think the brightest spot on that game was the interesting appearance of Daniel Vladar, as Jordan Bennington had to go back to his parent club for something and then was returned later on in the week.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, he left for personal reasons. I think that might have been something to do with his family.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'd heard something to do with this team.
No problem. And the second game of the week was against the Hartford Wolfpack at the Dunkin' Donuts Center on Friday, April 6th. Providence beats up the Pack by the 6-3 score. The first period, Anton Bleed scores his first from Hughes and Studnicka. And with that Studnicka assist at 7:59, I believe that was his first professional point. Is that correct? All right.
It was. I believe he got 2 points that night, if I was looking at the score sheet correctly.
Yep.
Let me pull that back up. Yeah, he got a secondary assist and then a primary assist, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep. In the first period, Jordan Swartz scores his 21st from Fitzgerald and Zarnik at 9:10. The second period, Providence Fitzgerald scores his 18th from Zarnik and Postma on the power play at 2:58. And Providence gets on the board again with another goal from Fitzgerald, his 19th at 8:37, which was unassisted. And one more for the second period because it was a very, very entertaining frame. Providence, Trent Frederick scores his third from Hargrove and Parrell at 10:42. And jump into the third period, Providence, Austin Zarnik scores his 22nd from Studnicka, as you mentioned, at 15:53. And that ended the game for the Bruins on the goal department. Shots on goal for Providence was 39-21. Power play opportunities 1 for 5 for the Baby Bees. And goalies, Zane McIntyre got the victory, stopping 37 of 40 shots. And there were 8,879 fans at the dunk that night. So
my wife and I were two of them.
Oh yeah, you guys went to the game, huh?
That was such a good game. Yeah, we had a couple of flex tickets left over from our season ticket membership. So yeah, we literally are catching every single game in this weekend series, which is awesome. We were there yesterday and Friday, and then today against Lehigh Valley.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, Friday night's game was so entertaining to watch. I mean, it was another one of those great start games where you have barely sat down in your seat, and then immediately Providence is putting up goals on the board, which is what they really needed to do because they took advantage of a Hartford team that seemed to have the same kind of start that Providence did in Bridgeport on the Tuesday game. It seemed like they were a little disorganized, a little kind of disinterested almost, and then Providence scores 2 quickies, and all of a sudden it's 2-0 going into the first intermission, and that set the tone for about like till midway through the third period when Hartford started to find a little rhythm to their game. But even so, I mean, McIntyre stopping 37 of 40 shots is impressive because he might have let in 3 goals, but his save percentage was still, I believe, 0.925 if I'm counting things properly. But yeah, he did a great job that night.
Nice.
Yeah.
And the last game of the week was Saturday, April 7th, against the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. Seems like we're playing these guys so many times. It's ridiculous. But the Baby Bees walk away with a 4-2 victory at the Webster Bank Arena. The first period, Jeremy Lauzon, one kid that I've really followed since he left the Corvette Major Junior Hockey League at the Miranda Huskies, and I probably hacked the shit out of that. Got his first goal, which is good for him and his confidence. A really good goal coming in and pinching in down low with Cam Hughes and Trent Frederick assisting at 6:29. So hopefully one of many for him.
I have a thought on that, but I want to let you get through the rest of the scoring before we kind of chit-chat about that one.
No problem. Jumping into the second period, Providence, Colton Hargrove scores the 16th from Parallel and Zaboral on the power play at 8:52. And Providence, Paul Postma gets his first as a Providence Bruins player from Hargrove and Studnicka at 17:05. Jump into the third period, Providence workhorse and point leader Austin Zarnik scores his 23 from Cross and Postma on the power play at 10:59, and that would do it as the Bruins win 4-2. Shots on goal had Providence at 23, Bridgeport 25. Power play opportunities 2 for 6 for the Providence Bruins, and the goalies Bennington gets the win, stopping 23 of 25 in front of 4,658 fans.
I'm actually impressed that number was that high because it really did not seem like there were that many people there at the Webster Bank Arena last night.
I watched the game and you saw a lot of blue seats.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, it was a little sad, but anyways, on my thought, it's a more technical aspect of the game. It seemed like Providence was activating its D incredibly well last night. Hence the goal from Lauzon kind of knowing when to pinch and when to join the attack. And then you had Paul Postma, who was, if you watch the goal, he was kind of walking in as he was taking that shot, putting himself in a perfect position to light the goalie up. And it was amazing. It really was. It was just such a well-placed shot. And it's good because Postma and Clifton are 2 of the only right-handed defensemen that Providence has. Like, they've got a huge cupboard full of left shot defensemen. So it was good. He was in position. He was in the right spot, and the D was being activated so masterfully last night. I got to give my hat off to Jay Leach right there because he had a great game plan there.
Yeah, definitely. The Providence Bruins have 4 games remaining starting today at 3:05 against the Atlantic leading and second place team in the Eastern Conference, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, at the Dunkin' Donuts Center. As it looks right now, per AHL.com website, the Baby Bees will play the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins in the first round of the 2018 Calder Cup playoffs. This is going to be exciting. I mean, I'm looking forward to to what's going to happen in the Calder Cup playoffs for this Providence Bruins team. And they actually clinched with last night's win. And they've only missed the playoffs 5 times in the last 26 years of existence. So lots of good things happening. I think the team's coming together, like you said, with the way Jay Leach is projecting his lines and how he orchestrates everybody and puts players correctly with the way chemistry is seen. So he's had a really good first year as an AHL head coach, and it shows that it's seen from his peers as he was the All-Star coach for the East or the Atlantic Division. Was that correct?
Yes, he was.
Yeah, so
not bad for your first year as head coach.
Absolutely not. I mean, it's an All-Star, nomination or a pick, but it still shows that you're doing something positive, even if it's at the middle of the season, and hopefully they can get a nice playoff run and get the second Calder Cup in franchise history. There's still a lot of work to go before I can see that long playoff run, and I hope that they have the time to figure it out, starting today and then the 3 games after this. There's a lot of positives there, but putting it all together seems to be. It's been a roller coaster ride this season, and to be a team at first place in December and January to going down as low as 4th and 3rd, you know what I mean? There's been some. It's been a tough year, so.
To put where they are in the standings right now it's good. I feel like you said, there was kind of some inconsistencies, but as the year has worn along, the newer players have stepped up their own level of play. They've stepped up to the challenge and answered it pretty well since that disastrous January where they had a terrible record. And it's showing now. I mean, now they're kind of challenging for second place. If they can manage to win, I believe, at least 3 out of the next 4 games, I think they'll be in a great spot to challenge for second place, give them home ice advantage over Wilkes-Barre. And honestly, if they don't have home ice advantage against Wilkes-Barre, I'm not worried. I've seen them play Wilkes-Barre enough this season to know that I think Providence has the edge in a season like that because they won the season series with Wilkes-Barre by virtue of points. Therefore, I'm projecting that as it has been this season, thus it will be in the playoffs. It's kind of like you've seen Boston play Tampa this year. There was that one game where we didn't do well against them. Sure, okay, I understand that. You can't win them all. But it seems that since 2014-15, we've kind of had Tampa's number and have won twice or almost even 3 times the number of games that we've lost against them. So I'm confident. I think if this is going to be a great first-round matchup for us, and I honestly hope that the Charlotte Checkers can beat up on the Lehigh Valley Phantoms enough for us to have a chance against them in the second round, because that's going to be the real measuring stick of how far this team has come since September, October.
Oh, absolutely. And as of right now, before the Wilkes-Barre, the Lehigh Valley Phantoms game today, the Providence Bruins are 43-24, 3-2 with 91 points. They're 3rd in the Atlantic, 5th in the East, 6th in the AHL. So they are, like you said, in a pretty decent area when it comes to playoff talk, and definitely that, like you said, that measuring stick is going to be the teams that are going to be outside of that first round when they go and meet them in the second round, and I definitely think that Lehigh Valley will be there. And if Providence can get past Wilkes-Barre Scranton, there's a great odds that they're going to face each other. And if you can win a series like that against a very, very talented Lehigh Valley team that is coached by former Providence Bruins head coach Scott Gordon, you will definitely cater yourself into a good situation against a team in the East, like Toronto or,
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're gonna have those teams in the conference finals, like they did with Syracuse last year. I mean, even though Syracuse trucked over the Providence Bruins on that was a pretty bad series in my opinion.
That was brutal.
And
that was brutal.
And honestly, and I'm not a very big guy on Zane McIntyre, but he did not have a good series at all. And his defense in front of him didn't either. I understand that it's a team sport and everything like that, but when you look at the way that goals were given up in that series, I was just blown away by what I saw during the regular seasion, what I saw against Wilkes-Barre Scranton, the Hershey Bears, and then going into a conference final like that, and you just kind of fold. It was a little disappointing, but hopefully that team can revive itself and get back to at least the conference finals, if not make it to the Calder Cup final, regardless of winning or not.
Absolutely. I think the additions of, honestly, even though they're on ATOs, I think the additions of Studnicka and Kaiser will actually benefit the team.
Yeah.
Especially Studnicka. My goodness. He's been playing. His first game he was a little timid, even though he got 2 points. He was a little timid, kind of a new surroundings, new settings, but he jumped right in, and it seemed as the game wore on, he just became more and more comfortable with it. And it looked like Leach was kind of letting the leash out with him, because at first he didn't get a lot of shifts, and then it seemed as the time progressed, it was more and more as the trust kind of grew between player and coach.
Yeah, exactly. I think Studnicka's a fantastic 200-foot player. I watched him many, many times. I mean, he was a 2017 second-round pick from the Bruins, so I've actually paid a lot more attention since he got selected in the June draft of last summer. So I've had a whole season under my belt to at least get 30 of the 60 or 78 game season to watch him and properly evaluate. Well, not properly evaluate, but give my unprofessional opinion about what I see and my evaluation of a player like that. And like I said, 200-foot player, good vision, great hands in close, gets to the net, and he's a big enough. He's not a huge center, but I mean he's got decent sized strength for his age right now.
Exactly. Yeah, he's playing. It seems outside of his frame. He's got kind of a bigger presence than his frame would. I guess allow might be the correct term here, yep. But he's just playing, outside of the out and around. He's got more range than you'd think he would. He's good with his hands, like you said, in close. Him and Frederick are really good at that. In fact, just kind of that ability to stick handle in a phone booth almost. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Studnicka, especially so close. It's nice to be able to, instead of having to travel to Oshawa, to be able to see him in my own backyard, basically. Yeah.
And very important to note, and I'm going to go off on a little rant right here because it just aggravates the crap out of me. But in certain websites out there, they hear something and they would jump on it. And I respect that. But a lot of them just have to take a couple minutes and relax and breathe and just research a little further into things before you publish them. A player like Studnicka and Kaiser, they're not permanent players now. They're not moving up. They are 19 years old. There's an agreement between the Canadian Hockey League, which is made up of the Western Hockey League, the Q, and the O. And they all have an agreement that if you're under 20 years old, you either make the NHL roster or you're sent back to your junior team. These two players, and also Cedric Pare, who plays for the St. John's Sea Dogs, was involved in an article from a similar website saying that he's coming to Providence on a permanent thing. Just because they're on ELCs doesn't mean they're staying permanently. I don't understand why people can't get that.
Yeah, I mean, the junior eligibility goes up to 21, but AHL eligibility starts at age 20, no matter who you are.
Right.
So regardless if you have an ELC, the only way that they'd be able to play for the AHL, I believe, is if they made the NHL roster and then were sent down.
No,
And
not even that. Not even that. Once you play in,
that even sounds like a gray area to me. But
once
yeah,
you play the 9 games, if you play the 9 games, you're in. You're on the NHL roster. But if you suddenly go and you're not on the roster anymore, you can't play in the AHL. You're sent back.
That's a bit ridiculous.
Now
but
it is, but
my commentary on AHL will be limited to that statement only.
it is kind of ridiculous, and I don't particularly like it, but it's good for the those 3 leagues to the north for revenue. People buy their jerseys.
Absolutely.
And all of a sudden you like Jack Studnicka get drafted by the Boston Bruins in the 2nd round. Some kid family went out and bought a $200 jersey of his, and then all of a sudden he's gone after so many games.
Yeah,
that's kind
exactly.
of a waste, you know what I mean? And plus, they want to keep those players like that, those high-profile players around. It's just so the NHL just can't come in, swipe down, and steal them.
Right, especially with some of the players out in, say, some of the lesser attended rinks, maybe out in the WHL, where you have these small communities with small WHL teams, like, for instance, the Brandon Wheat Kings and the Medicine Hat Tigers. I mean, they're not exactly the biggest barns, they're not exactly the biggest fan bases, so they absolutely have to keep some of their talent around it. I could definitely see it from that point of view.
Yeah, it's just... And it's something, college players, they can't sign a pro deal. They can't, or they lose their scholarship eligibility. It's the same thing, but they can come to development camp. They have a short window where they can play, but they can't come to, just say rookie camp or main training camp. If they do attend that, that's considered a professional atmosphere, and you therefore forfeit your scholarship.
Amateur eligibility as well.
Yeah. Jumping down to the East Coast Hockey League, returning to action on Friday night, Dan Vladar, the Atlanta Gladiators, allowed 3 goals on April 6th, Friday night, in a 4-3 victory over the Orlando Solar Bears, where he stopped 35 of 38 shots. His last game was on March 31st in a loss to the Florida Everblades. He's been called up and down to Providence, like we mentioned in the when we were going over the stat sheet. The 2017-18 regular season is over for the Atlanta Gladiators and ended on a bad note with a 4-0 shutout to Greenville on last night, as we record this on Sunday, April 8th. Even though the Gladiators had a sub-500 record with a 32-win, 35-loss, 2-3, they snuck into the 2018 Kelly Cup playoffs as the 4th and final team in the South Division and 9th in the Eastern Conference with 69 points in 72 games. Now, I just want to really quickly throw up the East Coast Hockey League standings, because I kind of need some help with this one.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
It's very confusing because let me see, standings. All right. So, what do you got going on there? You got some crunchy shit?
Oh yeah, sorry.
So, when you're looking at the conference standings, you have the Florida Everblades just running away with it. Then you got South Carolina, Adirondack, Reading, Manchester, Worcester, and they all have X's, so they've all clinched. But then at 7th, you have the Wheeling Nailers. They have not clinched. They have 79 points. And then you have Orlando, 8th place, which clinched at 75 points. And then the Atlanta Gladiators snuck right in there at 9th place, and they clinched, and they have 69 points. So
maybe it has something to do with divisions and wild cards?
You know what? I didn't even think of that.
That's my best guess.
It's got to be then, because when you click back on divisions, and yeah, Wheeling has 79 points. Yeah, so they're the 5th place. So that's the way I don't know, but I've never seen anything like that before. You know, maybe it's because I'm paying attention to the NHL more than and the way they do their standings and so on. Excuse me, but yeah, I just found that very strange. But Dan's been playing decent. I mean, he's not been playing great. He's one game below 500 for his 2017-18 season. So I can't wait for this kid to get up in the AHL permanently,
where he has a better defense in front of him. Yeah, absolutely. I feel like his numbers suffer just because of the caliber of players that he's playing with. And I feel like we say that a lot, but it's so true. And never mistake the prospect for the team that he's playing for.
And this is the way I see the developing depth going down next season. I do not see Zane McIntyre jumping to the NHL. I actually have a feeling that they're going to either re-sign Hudobin, who's had a pretty decent season this year, a lot better than anybody expected, but lately very disappointed in. And Dan Vladar. I want those two to be the goaltending tandem in Providence next season. And, you know, Kyle Keys is going to go back to his junior program. And obviously Swayman is going to be staying in Maine. So there could be like a free agent signing for a placement in the East Coast Hockey League. Or
I'm not even sure about that, to be honest. I know that certain ELCs can go down there, but you've got to be, it's kind of a fuzzy area.
Right, but Kyle Keys is 19 years old.
Oh, yeah.
And he can't play in the East Coast Hockey League either. So that could be something that they could draft this year. If they draft somebody and they could place them in the East Coast Hockey League, but that would only be a collegiate hockey player if he comes and wants to turn pro.
Or like Dan Vladar is, where he's from one of the European countries and he doesn't have the same age restrictions as you would find in the CHL.
Right. And I'd like to see him like at least get contact with Stephen Dillon. And I know he's probably going to be the same situation. I think he's under 20, so he's going to have to go back to the Niagara Ice Dogs. But he had a short stay with the Boston Bruins development camp in 2016 when it was when that was being held at the Rajusha Memorial Arena in Wilmington, Mass. The Fridge. The Fridge. You've been there, huh?
Yep.
Oh, that place is so cold. July, it's 100 and something outside, and it's freaking like 3 degrees. Yeah, 3 degrees inside. But I thought he's a big kid. He plays the down low crease very well. And he's having a decent season for the Niagara Ice Dogs this season that beat the Oshawa Generals in the first round to move on to the second. So, I don't know. He still remains undrafted for 2 straight years. So the Bruins could either draft him or they could just outright sign him before anybody else. But I don't know. It remains to see what happens with Atlanta next season. I do believe that the agreement with the Boston Bruins, has one more season. And there could be an opportunity that right around September or October, the announcement is made that they could possibly move to the Maine Mariners.
Exactly, yeah. I've got a lot of people who are really hoping for that, because that would open up 2 avenues of you can go see Bruins prospects
exactly
in developmental leagues instead of having to, just wait till they come around to the Bruins if they even make it.
Yeah, and I've done a little bit of research and listened to some podcasts outside of the Boston market, and I've heard that Daniel Briere, former National Hockey League player, he's the general manager of the Maine Mariners. And even though, and I know a lot of people have reached out to me and said, you're absolutely wrong, the Maine Mariners are owned and operated by the Philadelphia Flyers, that might be true. But the Philadelphia Flyers already have an East Coast Hockey League franchise in the Reading Royals. So this is a franchise that they built up that they're ready to move on from. So it is a great possibility that the Bruins could be in the mix to have them based out of Maine, which is perfect for me because I can get on the train in Exeter and head right up to Portland to cover them. And so as much as I want it to happen for my travel, my travel ways, I'd love to see it around here. And I was kind of hoping that Worcester was going to be a Bruins affiliate. I mean, everything lined up to just the way that the owner was a season ticket holder and a good friend of the Bruins, and his local ties to being from around here. I believe he's from the Beverly area. I just thought that would line up, and Worcester would be another one that you can get to easily, or I could get to easily. But unfortunately, it didn't work out. So I'm holding crossing my fingers and toes for Maine to come, because I think the Cross Insurance Arena is a great place to go and watch a game. I went there a couple times to watch the Portland Pirates and Providence Bruins play. So, and Portland's a great up-and-coming city. A lot of great places to have a couple beers.
Absolutely.
And I love beer. So the only other prospect that I really got to talk to right now is Daniel Bukac. And he's plays for the Brandon Wheat Kings, and they are down in the second round series, 2-0, after beating the Medicine Hat Tigers in the first round, 4-2 in that series. Bukac has has one goal in the 2008 playoffs, WHL playoffs, in his first round against the Medicine Hat Tigers, which was his first career playoff goal. The Wheat Kings come home for the next two games starting on April 10th at the Westoba Place in Brandon, Manitoba. So best of luck to him as he continues to go on and hopefully challenge his Brandon Wheat Kings, challenge the next couple of rounds to get to the Memorial Cup that's coming to Regina this season. And they'll be celebrating 100 years of Memorial Cup success.
Great place to have it, because Jesse Gabrielle is still playing in Regina, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, he is, and I'm not sure if many people know about how the Memorial Cup works, but I'm not sure if it's a bidding thing, but certain cities get to host, and just because that you might not be your leader or playoff eligible that particular year, the host team is automatically entered into the round robin tournament, which consists of the top team that went all the way in the WHL, the Q, and in the Ontario Hockey League, and then they do a tournament after that, which it's very popular up in Canada, and great to watch regardless of my Bruins bias.
Just another note on Bukac, because you and I were watching him in that last game against Medicine Hat. I can definitely see why he is drafted, or was drafted in the 7th round. I mean, he's got the size, the ranginess, the skating ability for sure, but there's a lot to be desired with his hockey IQ. There were a couple of decisions that he made were extremely questionable. And then there was one point during the game, he took a delay of game penalty and got benched for the remainder of that period, and then only came back out during the overtime period. So he's definitely going to be a project player for all those who haven't heard of him. He's a bit of a project, but if he kind of gets his head screwed on a little bit tighter, I think he's going to be maybe a bottom 6, or like a bottom 2 pairing defenseman. But again, it remains to be seen. I'm very curious to see where his development curve takes him. But yeah, so that's kind of the scouting report on Daniel Bukac for all those who are listening out there.
Yeah, and if the Brandon Wheat Kings right now are playing the Lethbridge Hurricanes in the second round. So if Daniel does not make it out of the second round and his season ends, you can guarantee that the hoopla about him becoming a permanent Providence Bruins player will probably happen because he moved to be with the team. And more or less, when players do come from other leagues, lower developmental leagues, it's very rare that they get into action. I mean, you're probably most likely not going to see Kyle Keyser, the goaltender from the Oshawa Generals, play. If you do, it's probably good on him and probably a Jay Leach decision, even though the team has clinched. But they're there for the experience. They're there to learn. They're there to be sponges and absorb as much as they can. This is a great opportunity for players like that to come up to the level and see what the professionals do and how they act, how they eat, how they train. It's just it's just a huge thing to take in. So I just don't like the hype of once news breaks, everybody's on. They're like, oh my god, we got this player, we got that player. Just take it easy and do some proper research.
Temper your excitement.
Yep. Excuse me. You got anything else to talk about?
Not really. I mean, I feel like we've kind of covered most things. I mean, I'm really looking forward to these last 4 games of Providence. I'll be attending 2 of them, so it'll be good to kind of get a feel for how the team how the team will be playing into the playoffs themselves. The 2 games I'm going to be at are this afternoon against Lehigh Valley, and then Friday evening against the Charlotte Checkers, who are actually below Providence in the playoff standings. I'm hopeful for this team, but at the same time, I'm kind of guardedly optimistic, I guess is the best phraseology to put it, because there's a lot of new talent. I mean, I believe this current crop of draft prospects is the largest that they've had to deal with in a while. And during some of the past couple of games, Jay Leach has dressed 8 to 10 rookies, which is a significant amount, because usually there's a good balance of either AHL veterans or maybe some of the older players from the parent club who have been sent down so that they can continue playing. But it seems like there's just a lot of rookies that are coming through the system. And kudos to them to being in the spot that they're in, given their inexperience in a professional environment, because it's a big difference. I remember when I went to the NCAA game, and there was kind of the atmosphere there, but it wasn't very serious. There was people were playing. There was an intensity, and I don't mean to say serious that people were taking it flippantly, but there was a very distinct change of tone between attending the NCAA game, where I was media credentialed, to last night being at the professional league, where everything was there's a lot more involved in it. It seemed like everything was taken a lot more seriously. It seemed like people were like the routines and everything were guarded as a little bit more sacred. The players weren't out and about. I remember when we went to the NCAA game, a lot of the players were stretching just kind of in the stands. And with the AHL game last night, everybody was kind of sequestered in their locker room areas. There was it was a much more strict environment. So I'm glad to see a lot of the kids coming in, and a lot of kids embracing that and being able to, and doing what they did. So I don't know. I'm excited to see where Providence is going to go, because it's gonna determine who's going to make the club next year, because they're probably going to be a lot of vacancies, as we've talked about in the past, where you have some of the maybe bottom 6 guys rotating out, playing themselves into bigger contracts. So a lot of spots are probably going to open up on the big club roster. So you're going to see a lot more of the experience, maybe more NHL ready guys start to get real long looks at the NHL level. So all that to say, I think this playoffs is going to determine a lot of who makes the jump next year. And credit to these guys for putting themselves where they are now. I mean, it's great to see them come in from the developmental leagues, where, again, maybe the tone is a little bit different than the professionals, and now being able to embrace their new roles and run with it. Because, I mean, when you have the inconsistencies that you do with maybe some of the younger players, you could fall off in the standings pretty quickly. And credit to them, they were at first at one point, like you said, and then unfortunately dropped down a little bit, but still, they're putting themselves in a good position. I really hope that over the next 4 games, Providence can manage to lock up that maybe second spot in the Atlantic Division and turn the handle and see what happens when they reach the playoffs.
Yeah, and I just pulled up Cap Friendly real quick, and just looking at players that are probably not going to be in the fold with the Providence Bruins next season. I could definitely see defenseman Tommy Cross not being with his team next season, or Chris Breen.
Interestingly enough, I haven't thought about Tommy Cross when you're done here, so finish your thought and then let me roll back to that for a moment.
I see Chris Breen, both Tommy Cross and Chris Breen are 28 years old. I just don't see them as a mix with this as players. Austin Czarnik, that remains to be seen. I don't think he'd want to sign as a UFA again to be in the American Hockey League. I think he's ready for the NHL, no doubt. And I think that he'll get a better opportunity, like we've said in previous podcasts, with another NHL franchise. Paul Postma, definite not going to be here next season. So, and Kenny Agostino, I do not see him returning at all. A disappointing season, in my opinion, coming from an AHL scoring title down to. I really don't know. I really can't say how. I expected a little more from him signing an NHL deal, and I'm actually very surprised that he cleared the waivers. But I mean, there's 5 opportunities that are right there from, in my opinion, that could create space from other players, especially current ones on ATOs, like you said, Trent Frederick, Cameron Hughes, and I'm probably missing one more. But, those guys, their entry-level contracts kick in officially next season, so they will definitely be in the fold. But go ahead on the Tommy Cross thought.
So last night I was actually talking to Josh Hosang, who's one of the Islanders prospects who's down in Bridgeport right now. And he said 2 of the guys that give him the most fits when he's playing the Providence Bruins are speedy Austin Czarnik and big Tommy Cross in the defense corps. Just Cross has been there for so long that he does have good instincts at the AHL level. So I could see him possibly returning, and if he's a good mentor to the kids, then I'm all for it. But it remains to be seen whether we move on from him. And it's interesting to see a player from outside the organization giving him a lot of credit. Like, he spoke quite glowingly of both Austin Czarnik and Tommy Cross. So given how revered they are, even from an outsider's point of view, I wouldn't be surprised to see Tommy Cross come back.
Yeah, I mean, like, as a leadership thing, I mean, you look at Chara, what he's doing in the NHL right now. I mean, signing an extra year. But Chara's played very well. And there's no comparison between Chara and Cross, but it's an age thing when it comes down to it. It's experience, who's been there, who hasn't, and it's always good to have that person to look up to when you need it to talk to on or off the ice. So, I mean, like you said, regardless, it remains to be seen. I just, in my unprofessional opinion, I just don't think that he is going to be a fit here in the future. So. Speaking of your experience, you joined Thomas Nystrom, a teammate at the Black and Gold Hockey Productions, as credentialed folks to report from the game last night in Bridgeport, Connecticut. How'd you travel down? Did you take a train or did you drive?
Nope. My wife and I just packed up the car and drove the 2 hours down to Bridgeport. I think the trip back seemed a little bit longer than the trip to.
Oh, you're getting all excited.
Exactly. Yeah, I was just about to say that. So I think that was probably part of that. But when we got there, Tom was arguably the most gracious host I've ever had. It was fantastic. He met me right in the lobby, kind of walked me through the media area, kind of introduced me to different people, and then we found our seats. And then I was able to go down kind of during the warm-ups take a bunch of pictures. It was amazing to be so close to the guys that I've been covering, outside of a fan event, how you have your season ticket holder event. It was really nice to kind of get close to the players outside of that surrounding. And I definitely think I caught a couple of them making eye contact with me. Like, I know you. I've seen you before. You're not exactly unfamiliar to me. So that was pretty cool. It was nice to kind of get the recognition, even though we had to kind of maintain a professional distance from each other. And after that, I mean, Tom and I just sat up in the press box. I got to say that the Webster Bank Arena has amazing sight lines from the press row.
Oh, it's way better. It's way better than the dunk. The dunk placement is terrible.
Exactly, and it's the press row there was center ice. You were at just the right height where you could watch both ends of the rink, and it was better than AHL Live because you kind of got to focus on the areas of the rink that you wanted to watch, the players that you were there to see. I think we talked about it before, but I think Studnicka played very well last night. He really is starting to come into his own, and kind of even though he's on an ATO in a more of a professional setting. But the game was played out extremely well. There was surprisingly enough, there was a lot of food there. I wish I hadn't eaten during the trip down because there was some really well-made food. So I got to really give props here to the Bridgeport organization for providing a lot of great amenities. I feel like their whole media organization, even though it's kind of a small group, I gotta say they do a very good job of it. And if I haven't said it enough, I thank them so much for their hospitality and for just kind of the whole experience there. It was great to finally kind of get into that media role and figure out, as I was kind of saying to you before the show, before we started talking, just how to go about being a good media professional. So I appreciate them and their staff for just kind of guiding me where I needed guidance and for letting me kind of explore on my own where I wanted to. So it was overall a wonderful experience. I got to say, it was just, it was an excellent game. I mean, the Bruins won, clinched. So overall, there's a good feeling there. Talking to the Bridgeport coach afterwards, unfortunately, he was a little bit upset, but he was very professional, I got to say, and answered a lot of questions in a very friendly manner, even given that his team had just lost and were eliminated from playoff contention. So top to bottom, best experience. I really, truly enjoyed it.
Well, this is where Angry Mark's going to come out, because I am extremely jealous. And not for the fact that you went down with my boy Thomas, he's a class act and a tremendous addition to our team over at the blackandgoldhockey.com website. But is the food? Are you serious? You guys got catered to?
It was catered.
All right. Here's my experience at the Providence Bruins. When I was up there, and I didn't stay there very long. I did my walk through and met everybody, but I wasn't allowed to stay because technically I am considered not working media. So, but I did have, I got into the building for nothing, and I also was able to do my coverage from the stands, but even though the tickets were given to me for free through the organization. But when I did go up to the press box, there was popcorn and water.
That's kind of.
I'll show you a picture. I'll tweet it out to you about my experience. It just said, please help yourself to Providence Media, and that was it. And at that time, I felt really cool. But until now, you're telling me that you guys are getting like a top-notch meal in the Bridgeport media area. I'm just kind of pissed off now.
Yeah, I think I'll try to save the little video that I took. I took a look. Yeah, I was kind of panning across it, looking at it. I was like, "Are you freaking kidding me? This is amazing."
Now I'm looking forward to getting down to Bridgeport next season. Hopefully, I can have the same opportunities as you did with Thomas. So
absolutely, I'd definitely love to coordinate like a trip between the three of us.
Oh, that'd be badass. That'd be badass.
Yeah, just to kind of get all of us in the same room, just kind of have a good time together and do some work on the games and such. Yeah, it was a truly great experience, and I have nothing but good things to say about the Bridgeport organization. I really appreciate what they do and how they go about it.
That's awesome. Well said. So regardless of my hatred right now of your experience, I think that's gonna be the end of the prospect talk for this week, and give you enough time to get to the dunk to watch the this afternoon's game against I keep saying Wilkes-Barre, Lehigh Valley.
You actually had me confused there for a second. I was like, wait a sec.
You know what?
Pennsylvania?
See, you know what it is I think I have a little dyslexia. It's the wording of each franchise. So Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Lehigh Valley. There's you could say that in 3 words, each of them. So I get them screwed up. I always say Wilkes-Barre all the time is my go-to because of that.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I've come up with a couple of different names and acronyms and things like that for my blog when I'm just feeling lazy. So I get how you feel. All right, Mark. Thanks so much for chit-chatting with me this week. Great time as always, and looking forward to next week. I'm curious what we're going to be talking about next week.
I know. Hopefully we have some things to talk about. I'm hoping it's definitely going to be Providence Bruins related, but hopefully, a player like Daniel Buchek move on to another round. So we'll just see from there. And it'll definitely be a show done from show notes instead of just memory, because I feel like the notes are going to be kind of the meat of everything that we're going to go on next week. Exactly.
There's not as much to talk about, unfortunately. But till next week, my friend, it was so good to talk to you, and thanks for humoring my stories about amazing media food.
Yeah, please don't forget to follow Josh on Twitter at 2Causeway, and please check out his blog, shippinguptocauseway.com. He definitely does a fantastic job updating Bruins fans. So until next week, my friend, take care, and thank you for listening, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. You can follow the guys on Twitter at blackandgold277, at Court Lalonde, and at Rob40Bruins. You can also send us an email to the show's account at blackandgoldhockeyblog@gmail.com.